Welcome to the Resolution Podcast, where we believe it's possible to overcome struggles and thrive in life. Here we discuss mental health, trauma, brokenness, healing, and ultimately how we can experience a thriving life with Jesus and others. These conversations are informed by my new book, Free to Thrive, co-authored with Josh McDowell. I'm your host, Ben Bennett. Welcome to Season 2. Welcome back to the Resolution Podcast. Ben Bennett here, and today I'm joined by Kait Warman, and we're going to be talking about moving past rejection. Come on. Kait is an author, speaker, popular relationship coach, and the founder of The Heart of Dating. She helps thousands of men and women on their journeys through the conversations on the Heart of Dating podcast. And I'll just add, her latest book, Thank You for Rejecting Me, phenomenal. It's so good. It's one of the best books I've read in recent years on identifying pain in her life and how to heal from trauma and find purpose. So good. Pick it up. Kait, thanks so much for being with me today.
Ben, this is awesome. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I am pumped for this combo.
So sick. So excited for this. I know you and I have so many mutual friends, and finally,
so fun.
We're getting to meet over Zoom.
I know. Wish it was in real life, but I love this. And I love finding out all the mutual friends we have. This is so fun. The world always gets smaller and smaller. And I'm grateful for virtual connection, even though I wish it was in real life. This is so fun.
Yeah, virtual saved everything during quarantine.
Yeah.
Well, this topic of moving past rejection is such a crucial one because whether or not we realize it, we all experience rejection, whether it's from our friends, from our family, from romantic partners, and even from ourselves. And so often, I think we can struggle to figure out how to heal and move past those experiences of rejection. But Kait, that's what I love about you and what you're doing and in your story, how you've navigated that. You've been through it in your own personal life, and now you're helping thousands of other people. So let's go ahead and get into the first question. Kait, will you, as we begin, will you share how you got started with the Heart of Dating and ultimately how you started helping others move past rejection?
Yeah. Well, the story goes that I am the queen of rejection, meaning I've been through a lot of it. I don't think you can talk about a topic unless you've been through it significantly, or who's going to listen to me, right? But the funny part is, Heart of Dating, I never thought I would be a dating coach, never thought I would talk about dating, especially talk about my story when it relates to dating publicly. That would have been 5 years ago. If you asked me, my worst possible fear would have been like me sharing my dating stories and some of the trauma and pain that had happened to me in front of people. And now I'm doing so in front of thousands and thousands of people. And now I've written it in a book that is evergreen. No takes backs, it is out there in the world. And so that really in and of itself is a picture of how God has empowered my heart and healed my heart and given me the courage to talk about this subject that I'm actually so deeply passionate about. Funny, though, that we're talking about rejection, because Heart of Dating itself really started in the wake of a very big rejection in my life. I write about this specific rejection, which was the rejection of heartbreak, in chapter 5 of the book called The Ugly Cry. And this was a relationship that at the time I really thought was it. This is now several years ago, but I thought this was it. It was a good Christian man. We had support from friends, family, mentors, pastors. And I was like, we're on the track to marriage. And, we were talking about engagement, and all of a sudden he had a conversation with me I didn't see coming, and he didn't have peace about moving forward. And eventually he ended it. That rejection sent me into a tailspin of like, I had already been through so much. And yet here was another failed relationship, the one that was finally healthy. I thought I was quote unquote finally doing it right. And so I asked God so many questions. I pressed into the healing. I started writing about rejection. And the beautiful part about that season is God started showing me that rejection could be protection. And to be honest, I didn't really know why. I just felt it in my heart, but I didn't understand why it was protecting me. I was like, this was supposed to be my guy. And that's one of the things in rejection we get wrong. We think we need to know why this happened, but oftentimes we won't know why it happened. We may never actually know why it happened truly. But I think through time, if we really trust God, if we really surrender the healing to Him, and if we keep pressing forward in what to do to keep moving forward, to keep healing, we'll start getting clarity through time. But in that season of healing from that breakup, it was when God started putting it on my heart to start Heart of Dating. And here's the kind of cool thing about it, Ben, is if that breakup hadn't happened, I genuinely believe that I would never have started Heart of Dating. Like
Wow.
I truly believe that, because a passion for talking about dating wasn't on my heart in a big way before that relationship. It really wasn't. Again, my worst possible fear. But it was in that breakup and healing from that I started developing this passion. And so, yeah, that's how Heart of Dating was essentially birthed. And then through that process, how I started helping others move past rejection was I realized so many people want to just like get on a date. They want to know where to find them and how to find quality people.
Mm.
But as I started coaching people later on in my journey, I realized we can't talk about how to date someone unless we talk about how you're showing up for yourself, and inadvertently how then you're showing up in the relationships that you're
Mm.
having. And most of the issues I saw there came back to rejection, twofold: rejection of themselves, self-rejection, so many people feeling unworthy, so many people not feeling confident, so many people not aware of what they actually bring to the table.
Mm.
And then also the external rejections that plague them, an ultimate fear of rejection because of some kind of rejection that's happened in their past.
Yeah.
And so often in my coaching, I started spending a lot of time with people, mainly talking about those things before we ever got to this is how you get out there and date. We had to talk about how do you address your own internal rejections with yourself? How do you heal from some of those in the past? How do you heal from your perspectives of God and maybe thinking that God's rejecting you? So we spent a lot of time in those buckets. And I realized, man, this is where we have to start before we just get out there. I can give all the practical advice of, putting yourself out there, but we really have to start healing from the fear of rejection.
Ooh, so good. As I listen to that and what God's doing through you and whatnot, I'm reminded of that so often God wants to do something in us before He's going to do something through us. And it's just like you said, had you not experienced that intense heartbreak and pain, who knows if you'd be helping, thousands of people move towards healing today. I wanted to press into, you talked about a couple ways that people can experience rejection from others or for themselves, but can we press into what are the common ways rejection can show up, whether it's in childhood, whether it's in adult life that you see in your world?
Yeah. So I separate the book, and I really feel like there's, first of all, two different main kinds of rejections. There's internal self rejections,
Mm.
and those really show up in the ways that we criticize ourselves, the ways that we feel insecure, our lack of confidence, our lack of worthiness, the lies that we believe about ourselves, and even in ways self-hatred. And a lot of those things stem from early childhood years, and they're things that were said to us or things that happened to us that implanted some sort of belief or some sort of lie that then grew through time. And we didn't know. We were young when those things happened. So we didn't have the awareness to even know that thing wasn't true, that lie, that belief isn't real about us, but we started believing it. And then through time, it's formed and shaped how we think about ourselves, potentially how we talk about ourselves, and then how we show up in our lives around us. So self rejections are very, very important to address, because without that, without addressing it, you can find any person on the planet, but they're never going to heal those self
Mm.
rejections. Like no sense of human love or human affirmation is ever going to fully conquer your own inability to love yourself.
Mm.
So we really have to work to love ourselves first, so that we don't lose ourselves in the fate of other people and in the hands of other people or in the hands of the world, which is very unpredictable. So that's the first area in which we really have to work through rejection, self-rejections. Other ways that rejection can show up have to do with, obviously, the obvious one as we talk about dating would be heartbreak. But then there's so many others. There's abandonment, and a lot of people experience abandonment, especially early in their childhood life. And I just want to
Mm.
open up the lens here that it's not just, your dad suddenly left and you never see him again.
Mm.
It could honestly, abandonment could look like you were emotionally abandoned or you were emotionally neglected as a child and you didn't exactly get all your needs met as a child. And that can be a sense of
Mhm.
rejection and abandonment from a very small, young age. Other forms of rejection would be things like abuse. That's one in the book I talk about that's very horrific, and that is part of my journey. We could also feel rejected through people in our lives. So, not only through dating, but through friendships, through developing community, feeling a lack of belonging. And who are we in the mid of all these other people? And so rejections ultimately and often there's even more that we go into the book, but oftentimes they're not just the ones that happened yesterday, last month, last year. Oftentimes it's things that have happened early in your life that then get compounded by other things that happen that then reinforce the same beliefs. And what does it all lead to? It leads to fears. It leads to really crippling fears of like, this thing cannot happen again, or else I'll die, or else I don't know if I can survive, or else this belief of me feeling unworthy will cripple me, And so we do whatever we can to mitigate those rejections from happening. But ultimately we can't mitigate any rejection from happening. But what we can do is we can heal from the ones in our past. There's so many people that are walking around with a limp.
Mhm.
And what I mean by this is they're walking around not knowing that things that have happened to them in their past are completely affecting how they're showing up in their lives today. And I think that we just need to debunk the whole faith and mental health thing, because faith, having faith, loving God, knowing the gospel is so powerful. And combining that with knowing that there are actual neurological things, psychological things happening in our bodies and in our minds, we need to know these things to be able to have tools to actually rewire our minds, actually start practically healing in a way that's more than just a Christianese form of just pray about it and it will be better. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yes, pray about it. And we need to actually search through and heal strategically through some of these things. And it takes a lot of action, a lot of effort, a lot of consistency. And I believe doing those things, recognizing our past rejections, healing from them, can truly lead to transformation.
Come on. So good. I think when we talk about rejection, so often we focus on what others have done to us and how they've hurt us or not met our needs growing up. But what's interesting is this idea of how often we can reject ourselves, whether it's through our thoughts or whatnot. Why would you say so many of us end up rejecting ourselves, and what does that often look like?
Yeah. So I think self rejection is the most crippling form of rejection, to be honest with
Wow.
you. Uh, if because and that's and the thing, but the beautiful part about it is that's the one that we have the most control over,
Mm.
because nobody's forcing us to believe those things about ourselves. We so I will say that again, nobody is forcing you to believe those things about yourself. So what's freeing about that is you may have all these self-limiting beliefs or these thoughts, but the great part is you can change them. Like, you can actually transform your mind through action, right? But if we don't actually admit that we have, and if we're not even aware of them, then we will continue to either overly self-protect, try to live in our little bubble, never get out of our comfort zones. When it comes to dating, that looks like, I'm never going to step out. I'm never going to talk to somebody I like. I'm just going to stay here and just hope that God magically and then we move on. But it doesn't work like that. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be courageous. You have to talk to people. Oh my gosh, a novel idea. You have to talk to people to actually date. And you have to endure hard conversations. And when it comes to dating, which is a big thing I talk about, rejection is almost always a part of the equation. Like you get online, you're going to be rejected tomorrow. There's going to be somebody that you swipe right on, you're excited about, that is not going to swipe right on you. That's just the math. It will happen. And so that's a small rejection. Oh, that's a bummer. That guy didn't swipe right on me. I was excited to talk to him. How are you going to handle that rejection? Are you going to demonize that person and be like, well, all men suck and da da da? Or are you going to, which isn't helpful at all, because that's not creating a helpful narrative? Or are you going to conversely take it personally and say, there must be something wrong with me. I must not be enough. Oh, I know I'm not pretty enough for a guy like that. And those are the thoughts that are the self-rejections. And so I think that really being aware of our own internal self-rejections and working to heal those things, which we have the power to do in partnership with the Holy Spirit, brings us into fuller alignment of who God really calls us to be, and I want to say all this without shaming anybody, because we all have things that we believe about ourselves that we're working through. I would just say the question is, are you working through them? Are you aware of them? Are you willing to work through them? And are you willing to continue to work through them for the course of your life, and because as you do that, you will see, oh my gosh, like, this was a lie I used to believe. And now when it kind of comes up again, I have a tool to deal with that lie. So that lie doesn't have to hit me and land and suffocate me anymore. I have a tool to say, I see it now. And now this is what I'm going to do and pivot into instead. But if we continue down the same self-fulfilling prophecy, nothing will ever change. And we'll continue to just feel so negatively about ourselves every time any sort of external rejection does happen. What I also hate about self-rejections is that it just really limits us from so much beauty and experiencing connection and opportunity. If you don't believe you're worthy of something, you're not going to step out into it. But at the same edge of that coin is, if you don't step out into the unknown, you're never going to know what God wants to do with you in that unknown, And so you can live a very safe life, but I believe it's C.S. Lewis who says an amazing quote that I don't have memorized off the top of my head, but it's like, we can keep our hearts in a box and we can keep it there and pardon it and put all these guards around it. But then what you've done is you've just completely hardened it, that nothing can penetrate it, nothing can pierce it, but therefore you don't feel anything. And what is life without truly being able to feel, to experience the heights of joy and the depths of sadness? That's what God designed us to be. And so you can't, if you can do that, you can try and protect yourself to that extent, but you're going to also miss out on so much of what God actually wants to bring you into.
Come on. I think there's about 5 mic drop moments throughout the past couple minutes.
Oh my gosh.
So good. When I think of self-rejection, thinking about it in my own life for probably 15 years, I was rejecting myself, feeding myself lies. It was all I knew. And I believed that I was basically worthless. And I think for so many of us, it can become all we know. We don't know that we actually aren't worthless. I was reading in, I think it was Psalm 10 earlier today. People love to quote the verse that says, who are we, O God, that you are mindful of us? But then the next verse says, yet you made them, us, only a little bit lower than God.
Wow.
We're made in the image of God. If we could only get God's sights on us and see ourselves the way he sees us as people made in the image of God, redeemed by Christ, the stuff, like the way we reject ourselves, like doesn't even come close to belonging. I mean, that's downplaying the image of God whenever we're rejecting ourselves.
Yes.
What does our commentary about the created say about the Creator? I think it says a lot. So if we have a low view of people, we're going to have a low view of God. And if we have a high view of God, we'll have a high view of people and ourselves. Wow. And that's what we need to get. Um, I love that awareness piece that you were talking about. I think it's so hard for us to be aware of the pain that we've gone through, of how we reject ourselves, of how we've been rejected by others. One of the things we do in my new book with Josh, Free to Thrive, is we lay out all of the needs that we have and how we can have unmet needs, how we can experience abuse, how we situation after situation, story after story, circumstance of what we've learned in our own lives. And one of the things we get at is that whether it's just a lack of loving words from a father over the course of years or one moment of intense abuse, the impact can be the same.
Yeah.
And, in your recent book, Thank You for Rejecting Me, Kait, you laid out something called shame scarves that I thought was so powerful. That was kind of a similar concept. Will you share more about shame scarves with us?
Yeah. And I love that you just detailed it out. It can be a big T trauma, little T trauma built through time. And we can look sometimes, especially when it's little T trauma, I find that people are like, my life's pretty good. I'm fine. Like, I don't have shame. I don't have trauma from my past. But the thing is that it could be small moments of trauma that have built upon themselves throughout time. And so you still have trauma. It's just moments of it that's been piled on top of one another. So when we were created, you said it so good, Ben, but we were created in the image of God. We are perfect and pure and innocent and gorgeous in his eyes. And we were created also with unique DNA and footprint. And when you think of yourself as a child, like you didn't fear that kind of rejection as you do as adults, right?
Mm-hmm.
So something along the way happened. Like most of the time you just went up to a stranger and like, hi, can I pet your dog? Like, or like whatever it was, we had such less fear, in those days, especially fears of rejection. And so what happens is that the pure innocence, us at childbirth and as children, small things start happening. And so in the book, I detail out an exercise I went through with a therapist that was really powerful for me, where I actually pictured myself as a little girl. And then I pictured just one moment from my childhood that I could remember, a painful memory of some kind, whatever that came to my mind first, the earliest memory I could think of. And one of the earliest memories that I could think of was one of my aunts telling me that my smile looked fake. And now this was like a passing moment. It was, like for her, she probably is just like trying to give me, in her mind, she probably never even remembers that she said that, right? It's a small moment, but I already felt insecure. I had already hit puberty at a very young age. And so her saying this about my smile hit me in such a way in that moment where I was like, somebody is actually pointing out the awkwardness and insecurity that I've already started to feel. And so there's a shame scarf that was thrown over me that created a line of insecurity about myself and specifically my attraction and my body image. And I'm telling you what, that moment created a 4-year stint of me feeling incredibly awkward about my body. And it went on and on, but my puberty phase of the awkwardness, we all have some form of that for a guy or a girl. It went on for 4 years for me. I had a 4-year awkward phase. Okay. And I just couldn't get comfortable with myself and my skin. I felt so weird. I felt so gangly. I felt just out of touch. And so there was that moment. And then you think of another moment. I think of another story I told in the book of being bullied when I was in the 6th grade. And that's another shame moment. And that seems like maybe a bigger deep trauma for me, whereas my aunt commenting was maybe a smaller moment, but it's piling up again. I'm not wanted. I'm not liked for as I am. I'm not accepted. So there's some sort of lie there. And so then you continue to think about these moments throughout your childhood. And what happens is as these shame scarves are thrown over you, the first one that's thrown over you, you can still see the child underneath. You can still see the innocence, the purity, who God created you to be. But over time, if you could picture it in your mind, like literally picture it,
Mhm.
scarf upon scarf
Picturing
upon
it.
scarf upon scarf. Eventually, you can't even see that child underneath. It's just a pile of scarves. And it's so sad to think about. That's literally what we are so often as adults. We are adults walking around with tons of shame scarves, like covering our bodies in such a big, giant weight that we just can't seem to shake. And we're functioning. Some of us have developed some tendencies in our life that are actually admirable. One of mine was performing. And if
Mm.
I, really think about that, my performing, well, that was impacting the world. And to others, I looked like I had it all and I was on top of things and top of my class, top of my career, blah, 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 blah. So to others, they're like, this girl's killing it, right? So you think about it, we look on social media, we're like, oh, look at all these people killing it. But I'm like, okay, but what's behind that? Like, is
Right.
their performance coming because they need that as a part of their identity? Or are they have they worked through their stuff and they're performing outwardly because that's a gift that God has given them to do and be called to that specific area? There's a difference. One is needing the validation of the world and doing it out of shame. The other is by walking into your calling and knowing your giftings while staying grounded to who you truly are. But we think we're over here when we're acting in something like performance, but we're not if we haven't sorted through those shame scarves. And so I think I don't care who you are. I think so many of us are walking around with the shame scarves that we're afraid to admit that we have, because even just the idea that we have shame scarves or shame from our past feels shaming in and of itself. We're like, I
Mm.
don't want to think about that. I don't want to think, because I want to seem like I'm a person that has it all together. The reality is, so many of us are people who don't have it all together. Like
Yeah.
I wrote this book. I still got it all together, Ben. I still work through things all the time. My therapist knows. I see her every week,
Mhm.
And so I think that there's a humbleness and in recognizing, hey, there's things I'm working through. And even today, as I continue to work through those moments, there's still things that come up. Oh, there's another scarf that I haven't addressed yet. Let's
Mm.
address that moment and that thing and that lie that started being created at that moment so that we can unravel it. I can get to the root and actually really unroot it and
Mm.
start transforming back to who God created me to be.
Come on. Love it. That picture of the shame scarves and them stacking up, especially starting as a little kid, is just, it's, to some extent, it's devastating to think about, like this, you know, in our lives, like we can be these joyous kids, like,
Yeah.
no fear and whatnot, like you talked about, but then the shame scarf, another scarf, to the point where we can't see anymore because we're so covered with those scarves. And we've probably gotten so used to it. It's like me right now. It's like I don't even realize that I'm wearing a hat. I've gotten so used to wearing it today. The same thing can be true with those shame scarves in our life. And that's why the awareness and trying to figure out, how am I being held back from these things that Jesus really wants to heal in my life. So, we've talked about so far a lot of identifying the different kinds of rejection, how it can show up in our lives. Big question: how do we begin to heal from rejection and trust people again?
It's such a big question. Man, it's hard to unpack it in a short time. So I'll give you
Hmm.
just like the top things that come to head. Um, but I think we already addressed the first step. The first step is awareness. And we have to have some sort of breaking point, heck no moment, where it's like, you know what? Heck no. I'm not going to live with those shame scarves. Heck no. I'm not going to live in the fear of rejection happening. Heck no. Am I going to continue to live with these limiting beliefs or the self-hatred that keeps showing up every single time I try to put myself out there? Like, if you can have a heck no moment, they say for addicts, like you need a breaking point low moment. You need to reach some moment where you're like, I could continue on doing like little things here and there to try to mend these issues. But if you really want the true transformation, you have to have a major heck no moment. I'm not going to live like this anymore. Like, I will not live like this. I see how it's ruining my life. I see how it's taking me away from God's calling in my life. I see how it's taking away from who God really created me to be. And I will not continue to walk in the identity I'm walking in right now. So having that heck no moment, starting to get aware of the past things that happened, which means going through those layers, which is really painful. And I would just recommend giving yourself a whole heck of a lot of grace in that process, because the last thing we want to do in that process is shame ourselves more for the things that have happened in our past. As you sort through the layers, there can be a tendency to be like, oh my gosh, why did I show up that way? Or why did this thing affect me so much? Like me thinking back to my aunt who said that thing about my smile. It would be easy for me to be like, gosh, Kate, like, why did that affect you so much? It was just one comment. You should have got over it. That's such a shaming way to treat ourselves. So in this process, as you start getting aware and you start going through the layers, make sure that you are treating yourself with the same way God would treat you in these moments, which any pain we should be able to and can bring to God without him having an ounce of judgment or that issue to me. No, he cares about all of it equally, right? And so each moment of pain that we've experienced is real, and we have to allow ourselves to know that was real for us and really hurt us at that time. So have no judgment as you get curious with your past. And then I would start, identifying some trends and working through the specific trends. Like if it's a lie you believe or the specific tendency that you have, now it's a moment to start taking radical ownership around some of those pieces. One area of my book, I talk about the VBS, which it's my short form for the victim belief system. And so we can continue to live as though the world is out to get us, but that's never going to serve us in actually transforming our mindsets and walking in freedom. So what are the areas, what are the buckets of things that you want to start transforming? Identify it and start working slowly through each one. I don't believe that you're going to transform every ounce of pain and every bucket of pain in your life overnight. And I don't even think that you should try to do it all at once, because it will be way too much of a crash course and you'll probably burn out. We want to take things slowly, have a lot of grace for yourself, and know that it takes time. Within that time, I would bring in a very few amount of incredibly close people that know you, that see you, that love you for just as you are, and that can continuously remind you of who you are as you walk through this process. It's so important. One of the things I recommend for people to do is ask somebody why they're friends with you. Because that simple question, even though it may feel awkward, will bring you so much clarity on what value you bring to other people's lives. And it's so important that we start clinging on to those unique things that we bring to the world as we start healing from our pain. Because sometimes those painful moments, we can start seeing, well, that painful moment led me to become an empathetic and compassionate person. And now I hear my friend telling me that they're friends with me because I'm empathetic and compassionate. Wow, I can see how going through that pain and healing through that pain has brought me this gift of being compassionate and empathetic, which is why people want to be around me. So in essence, no, I'd never want to go through that pain again, but now I can be firm and confident that God is using some of that pain to create beautiful things within me. So that's just, that's just part of the process of going through the recognizing the rejections, being curious with it, and actually moving towards the healing.
Man, love it, Kate. I mean, just like, those scarves that you talked about, shame scarves develop over time. Why would we think that healing is going to happen in an instant? Maybe it's kind of like peeling off the layers of an onion. May we be gracious and kind to ourselves. I think of how, Romans 2:4 that says it's his kindness that leads us to repentance, to change our mindset. May we have kindness towards ourselves like God has towards us as we seek to change, as we seek to heal, as we seek to grow. And may we really just stop shooting on ourselves.
Yes.
Stop saying, I should be there. I should be over this. I should be finally healed. It shouldn't take this long.
Yes.
It's a process, as you know so well, Kate. And that's a process that can be so hard to even want to get into because it can be so painful to visit those places of past rejection. Kait, why would you say it's worth it to move past rejection, to face that stuff, and is a better life possible on the other side?
I think the beauty of pain is that it gives us the opportunity to have such a flavor for life that we may
Mm.
never have known without the pain. And not to say
Ooh.
like, oh my gosh, like, yes, I want to go through abuse again. Like that's not what I'm happening. But I think that as we experience pain, we start appreciating all the things of life way more, like going through such a situation as I've been through, like abuse, has made me now just appreciate when somebody hears me or listens genuinely. Like in that moment, I am so appreciative after 2.5 years of being gaslighted and being discounted and being told that I was crazy. Like when somebody actually is like, thank you for sharing. And I hear you. I'm like it literally, it doesn't just pass by me. It actually is like a gift to my heart. And I want to thank that person and bless them. And that continues them wanting to then do that more to other people.
Mm.
Right. And so it's the depths of the pain allow you to also experience the greatest joy possible. And so I think that that's part of the gift that pain brings us. It also gives us the ability to, like I said, come alongside other people in ways that can transform other people's lives. The one thing I wish in my specific abuse situation, I'm just bringing that up again, is I just wish back in the day that there was somebody that just listened to me and said, Kait, what you're going through, I understand. And what you're
Mm.
going through makes sense. And what you're going through isn't crazy. It's not outlandish. Like, I believe you. I trust you. I see
Mm.
you. And you, as a person that have been through pain, you can be that voice for somebody else that may get them out of the ultimate shame pit that they're in. And as I think back to those moments, like, man, we just need more of that in the world. We need more people who have experienced pain, who are willing to heal from the pain and then seek to be not like the heroes, but to come alongside of people, walking with them arm in arm as we do life together, because we aren't promised a life without pain. And I
Mhm.
actually don't believe that would be exciting. I don't
Mm.
believe that it would create dynamic human beings if we didn't have pain. And so, yeah, I believe that it really transforms how we show up in the world, how we see God, and how we can really love other people.
Mm. Powerful. And that's hard to get to see the beauty that can come from the pain, especially in the moment. But it's like in the depth, or as we go into the depth of the darkness, we appreciate the light, all the more because we can
Yes.
see the contrast. And there's a way forward, and you've seen it, and all the people you're ministering to, speaking to, coaching, are seeing it. As we begin to wrap up today, Kait, where can people get your latest book, and where can they stay connected with you and all the happenings?
Yeah, I would love to stay connected. We have a fun community through Heart of Dating. We have the podcast every week. We have a private Facebook group. We hang out on Clubhouse. We hang out on Instagram. You can go to heartofdating.com to find out a lot about that. You can join Facebook, facebook.com/heartofdating. Instagram, Kateness and Heart of Dating are where we hang on the gram. And then the book is anywhere books are sold. You can get it Amazon Prime to you. And that would mean a lot to me. It has flowers on the cover, but guys can still read it. It's a great tool for both genders. Um, so yeah, that I would love to stay connected.
Yeah, and I'll say as a guy, it does have flowers on the cover, and I read it, and it's phenomenal. And I posted about it, and I said, guys, don't let the cover, don't read a book by its cover. Don't let this distract you. It will rock you.
We all
So
need some
phenomenal.
flowers in our life anyway, okay?
Amen. Let's see the beauty. Come on.
Yes.
Well, to those watching and listening, can I say this gently? if we don't deal with rejection in our life, if we don't deal with our stuff, other people will have to. So may we, as hard as it is, maybe we move towards those uncomfortable areas of our life, of our past, to work through them, to press in, to heal from rejection. And I believe what you will find, that I found, that Kait has found, so many other people have found, is that rather than avoiding it, which when we avoid it, it's affecting our beliefs, our actions, our behaviors. Rather than avoiding it, when we engage it, it actually will lead us to greater purpose, greater satisfaction, and a better life here and now, where we can help so many other people, because we're all experiencing rejection. So Kait, hey, thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for your latest book. So good. And thanks for having this conversation today.
Thank you, Ben. This has been a gift, and I love what you're doing over there.
Thank you. Thanks for checking out the Resolution Podcast. To go deeper on today's topic, get my new book, Free to Thrive, at resolutionmovement.org, as well as access a variety of free resources. If this episode encouraged you, please take a moment to rate it, share it, and subscribe. You can listen to us wherever podcasts are found, as well as watch the visual version of each episode on our YouTube channel. Connect with us by searching Resolution Movement on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. See you soon.